Is this right? Hey guys! Today I'm gonna talk about... Hey guys, okay, so today we're gonna talk all about lighting. So you could either use natural lighting or artificial lighting. Wait a second, I have the lens cap on. Is this right? Should I go here or here? Something seems off. Hey guys, does any of this look painfully familiar? If you've ever felt like you're fighting your equipment instead of filming your video, then you've come to the right place. A simple checklist can solve almost all of these problems. I've put together a special 3-part video series to walk you through our pre-filming checklist that we use with our clients. This video will focus on all the equipment you need to get started. The second video will focus on camera confidence, and the third video will provide you with the game plan for filming day. All right, let's dive right in. All right, so first let's talk about your camera setup. You can use either a camera or your smartphone camera. We use the Canon EOS M50, but a lot of our clients use their smartphones, and that's perfectly fine too. So if you're filming with your smartphone, we'd highly recommend filming with the back-facing camera instead of the front-facing selfie camera, because these are generally higher quality. You'll want to stabilize your camera with a tripod, a gorilla pod, or like a selfie stick, like camera thing that you put your phone on. It's kind of like a phone tripod. When it comes to where to position the camera, the key is to keep your camera at eye level. So you don't want to be looking up at the camera or looking down at the camera. This provides a neutral and relatable perspective and avoids distorting proportions. Eye level is also the way we naturally see the world, so it helps create a more relatable and comfortable experience for the viewer. I think it's really great because it allows the viewer to connect with you on a personal level. It feels like you're just having a conversation. Okay, so like an angle down would be like this. You wouldn't want to be filming like this because then, you know, the camera angle is looking down at you, or filming like this. You wouldn't want the camera lens to be looking up at you. So I know this is a bit exaggerated, but you can kind of see how you could have the camera like... What I use is I use a stack of books. Okay, let's get back. So now let's talk about camera orientation. So for filming long form videos like YouTube long forms, I always recommend our clients film in horizontal or landscape mode. So that's when the camera is horizontal like this. If you are only filming YouTube shorts, TikToks, and Instagram reels, and you're not planning on doing long forms of that content, you can go ahead and film in vertical or portrait mode. So you have your camera or your phone facing like this. However, the reason I recommend filming in horizontal and landscape mode is because I can then crop it when I go to do the editing, so we can have like shorts, we can pull shorts from that video, and we can also have the long form, so you don't have to film it twice. Oh yeah, you absolutely don't have to film it twice. You don't have to record yourself horizontally and vertically. Just go ahead, film it all in one go horizontally, and then I can go ahead and crop to make it vertical in post. Now let's talk about video resolution. So I encourage our clients to film in 4K, which is the highest resolution. Filming in 4K provides significantly more detail and sharpness than filming in 1080p. The reason this is important is because it allows for more flexibility in editing. So when we film that video horizontally, I can then crop it vertically and it will retain its sharpness. And if I want to zoom in, like to create a zoom effect, kind of like this, I'll go ahead and do a quick zoom. If I want to do a zoom in effect, I can do that without it creating any blurriness. Now, if your camera or phone doesn't film in 4K, don't worry about it, just film in 1080p, but I wouldn't recommend going any lower than that in terms of resolution. Okay, so now let's talk about frame rate. So frame rate is often measured in terms of frames per second, and I just looked up the definition to confirm it, and it refers to the frequency at which consecutive images, known as frames, are displayed in an animated display. Okay, so if you are planning on using slow motion in your video, it's generally better to film at 60 frames per second. So you film at a 4K resolution with a frame rate of 60 frames per second. So this will allow you to slow down the footage and make sure everything looks smooth. Now, if you're not planning on doing slow motion, you can film at 30 frames per second, and that's absolutely fine. I wouldn't go anything lower than that. So now I'm gonna provide a bonus pro tip. I'm gonna talk to you about focus and exposure. So autofocus is great, right? Because it automatically focuses and it should follow the subject around. However, if you are planning to move around a lot, you could go in and out of focus. And unless you have the viewfinder open on your camera, so the viewfinder is a little screen next to the camera lens that lets you see yourself. So like right now I'm looking at the camera lens and right now I'm looking at the viewfinder. By the way, as you are filming, make sure to look at the camera lens and not at the viewfinder. You may be tempted to look at the viewfinder because you see yourself and you want to look, but as you look, you see, now I'm looking at the viewfinder and my eyes divert. So look at the camera lens. Sometimes people just even flip the viewfinder around so they are not tempted to look at it. But yeah, just a little tip there. Okay, so now going back to the conversation about focus and exposure. So autofocus is great because it automatically focuses and it should follow you around pretty well. However, if you're gonna be moving around a lot, you might go in and out of focus. And if you don't have that viewfinder, so if you're not like constantly looking and checking to make sure you're in focus, you could end up filming the entire video for like 20 or 30 minutes and then realize you're out of focus and you have to do it all over again. So to avoid that happening, we would recommend using manual focus. And the way you can do manual focus, especially on your smartphone, it's super simple. You usually just tap the subject. You can tap and hold to once you see the little lock pop up, that will lock in the focus, and you can also adjust the brightness to have it at a brightness and focus level that you want for the entire video. And the reason it's important to set to lock the exposure is because if light is changing, if you're filming using natural lighting, it won't like cast any shadows or make you look really bright and suddenly change the exposure halfway throughout your video. It's a good idea to also set your exposure how you like it, so if the lighting changes as you're filming, especially if you're using natural lighting, it doesn't affect the way your video turns out. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about framing. So when it comes to framing, we encourage our clients to generally film where they're in the center of the frame or with using rule of thirds. So right now I'm filming and I'm in the center of the frame. The rule of thirds basically involves dividing your camera frame into 9 different sections with 2 lines going vertically and 2 lines going horizontally. It basically suggests filming with your subject at any one of these lines or intersections rather than centering them. So for example, if I wanted to film using rule of thirds, I could go like right here. I know the light is a bit bright right now, but this would be, a third. I'm in the third of the camera frame, or filming with me right here. And by the way, right now I'm using autofocus, so it is doing a pretty good job following me around, and I have the viewfinder, so it lets me double check. So if you can absolutely use autofocus, and this camera, the EOS M50, does a pretty good job with autofocus because it's a popular vlogging camera. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the center. So there you have it. You could use center or rule of thirds to position yourself. And I always recommend leaving a little bit of space at the top. You wanna try not to, definitely don't crop yourself like that or be too close to the top, but just leave a little bit of space at the top is always nice. You can record from the chest up, or you could also record standing. I prefer sitting, and our clients also have found it helpful to sit. But if you're more comfortable standing or you have a standing desk, feel free to stand. Some movement and some gesticulation really helps with enhance the delivery of your video and make it look more personal. All right, now let's talk about lighting. So you can either use natural lighting or artificial lighting. If you're going to use natural lighting, I would highly recommend you sit facing a window. So you don't want your back to be against a window because that will cast a shadow and create like a silhouette. Unless you're going for the silhouette effect, which sometimes I do in my videos, you absolutely can if you want to create a silhouette effect. But just know if you have a window behind you, it might cast a shadow and create like a silhouette effect. Also, be mindful of harsh lighting from side windows. So if you have a curtain or you could put up something to block the window, that would be great. And if you are planning to use artificial lighting, you can use a ring light and kind of position that to face you. You could also use colored RGB lights in the background to kind of create some pink or blue. Whether you're using natural or artificial lighting, the goal is to get a soft light on your face and to avoid harsh lighting as much as possible. A bare light bulb or direct sunlight can create hard, unflattering light. The bigger the light source, the softer the light. And if you're using a lamp, you can bounce it off a white wall or use a white foam board to make it softer. Also, be mindful of harsh lighting from above. So right now I have turned the lights off and I'm relying solely on natural lighting. But if you're filming later in the day and you have lights from above, it might like kind of create a glare or it might be a little harsh on you as well. All right, guys, so now let's talk about audio. So audio is super important. If you don't have a fancy camera, that's okay. We believe that it's super important to invest in your audio quality. Now there's a few ways you can do this. So you can have a lavalier mic, and that's a mic that you just clip to your shirt, or you could use a shotgun mic, Or you could use a mic like this one, and you could just put this on your desk and talk into it. I always find it really professional when you see the mic in the shot. So I don't have the mic in the shot because it's on top of my camera lens, but if you want your mic in the shot, it would be really nice to have a fancy mic. This is what it looks like without the cover. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the cover back on. It's a little fluffy, soft. Okay, so you could also use a mini shotgun mic that just connects to the camera, and I'll show some footage of that so you guys can go ahead and see what it looks like. So you can use now this has a funny name. It's called a dead cat. It's this fluffy microphone cover. This is especially good if you're vlogging and filming outside because it helps reduce wind noise. I just use it because we have one, and when we were using it for vlogging, we used one. It's also really soft, and yeah, but this is what the microphone would look like without the dead cat, and then this just goes straight on top. So we'd recommend you record in a quiet room, and also just be mindful of any appliances that you might have running. So if you have like a washing machine or a dryer making noise, or even the dishwasher running. It was really funny because the first time I think I was filming, we were making rice, and then the rice cooker went off and started beeping. There goes the rice machine. I included that in the bloopers section. But yeah, just be mindful of any appliances that you may have running. You don't want a blender to go off or your phone to start ringing, and then you're like, oh, that was such a good clip that I filmed, and now I have to do a retake. Also, be mindful if your AC is loud and running. If you could turn it off while you're filming, that would be great. Try to keep windows closed. I know this is tricky to do, especially if it's really hot. Sometimes it does get hot, but you could always just have the window open for a little bit before you start filming, or have the AC cool down the room before you start filming, and then turn it off just to eliminate any background noise. If I hear a car drive by, or we even have like planes taking off, if it sounds too loud and I can hear it, sometimes I'll just pause and re-say what I was gonna say just in case, because I'm not quite sure if it'll get picked up. I know sometimes the really loud cars or motorcycles get picked up, so it's nice to just pause and re-say it. And then when I'm editing, I can go ahead and choose the version that sounded the best. Sometimes we get asked if it's possible to edit audio in post, and it absolutely is. Making a few minor tweaks to the audio in post-production is totally fine. But if you edit the audio too much, or if the audio quality is just so bad that you really need to edit it, it can actually start sounding a bit artificial or a bit robotic. If you've ever heard like a recording that kind of sounds a bit robotic or artificial, it's probably because it was tweaked too much in post. So having a good microphone will be super duper helpful. Filming in a quiet room and making sure you eliminate as much noise as possible will be really helpful. Another thing to keep in mind is echo and reverberation. So echo can happen if you're filming in a room with high ceilings, wooden floors. You know, we had this situation earlier where it was really difficult to film because there was so much echo and reverberation in the previous place we were living. Sometimes I would even have to go like in a closet to film voiceovers. Luckily we could do that because it was for a vlogging channel, not a channel like this where I'm constantly talking to a camera. So if you have curtains and carpet and furniture, things that just fill up the space and reduce echo and reverb, that is super helpful. Echo is a really common problem in really empty rooms. Sound waves like to bounce off flat surfaces like hardwood floors and walls. So if your footage sounds too echoey, try filming in a room with more furniture, curtains, or carpet. These softer surfaces absorb the sound and help it sound less echoey. Alright, now let's talk about your background. Imagine you're an actor and you're about to perform on stage. This is your stage. This is your set. How do you want to create your set? What props do you want to use? What do you want your background to look like? When I'm about to start filming, I love to think of my background like a set. You want to make sure your background is clean and tidy. You want to be mindful of everything that's in your background. Does it serve a purpose? Is it just random? Try to avoid clutter as much as possible because messy backgrounds can just give off a bad vibe and look quite unprofessional. Make sure your background is clean and tidy. Think of the mood you want your audience to feel, what vibe you want to create, and think about your brand. Make sure the things in your background are on brand. So if you want to come across really professional and classy, you may consider filming in front of a bookshelf. Or if you are a fitness influencer and you want to showcase some like workout equipment in your background, that would be super cool too. You know, or filming with like a mossy green wall might be fun. Also try to avoid filming in places where people could be walking behind you or if there's like a lot of distracting movement. You can also place like some plants in the background or some soft lighting as some decoration in the background. That's always nice. Close any doors to any rooms that you don't want to be exposed, and try to create some depth with your background. So instead of sitting right up against a wall, position yourself so there's some distance. This separation will create a nice sense of depth and will make your shot look even more professional. And there you have it. So those are the tips and tricks we share with our clients to help them prepare for filming day. In today's video, we talked about camera equipment, lighting, audio, and your background. I hope this video was helpful and provided you with some actionable tips that you can use for filming your next video. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, it would really mean a lot to us if you could hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let me know, what is one new thing you learned today? I'd love to hear from you. And if you know someone who would find this content helpful, it would be awesome if you could share the video with them, because we want to help as many people as possible. And get excited for the next video of our 3-part series, which will focus on camera confidence. See you then. Bye. All right, I'm so excited to record video 6. It says, ooh, let me get my phone and I can show that. Okay. Birds chirping outside. Yay! Okay, let's resume. I'm gonna get a quick water break. So I'm gonna pause the video here and then I'll resume in a second. Okay, so now we're recording. Okay, I think I like shook the camera a little bit. Let's talk about audio. Now there's a few ways you can do this. You could have a lavalier. Is it lavalier? Lavalier. You could have a lavalier. Let me just look up how to pronounce lavalier. Lavalier.
Lavalier.
Lavalier.
Lavalier.
So think of your background as an actor would think of the stage for the theatrical performance. Okay, let's give this another try. Okay.